Hello, hello. You're listening to Occupolitics, a Harry Potter reread podcast focusing on politics in the wizarding world. I am Adri, your host and recovering English major who has been poked and prodded by the by the lab because I had to take a 3-hour glucose test and it's so disgusting.
Oh, well, that's what happens when you get pregnant. You get poked and prodded incessantly for 9 months.
You know, I did not expect this much of poking and prodding.
Until you push a human out. Then your human gets poked and prodded a lot, I think. But
I feel like they would have just told me about like the amount of blood that they were gonna get from me was gonna be, exorbitant. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, cool, great. No one told me about the blood. No one told me.
Yes, uncovering the secrets of pregnancy one day at a time. Anyway, I haven't actually said who I am yet. I'm Helene. I'm your co-host, producer, and not pregnant person, and person who does not plan to be pregnant for a very long time, if ever. So
you have so much time ahead of you, Helene.
That's my selling point. Not pregnant.
You know what? Right now sounds great. Even though I really love this unborn child already, obviously.
Of course.
But also, I feel out of control in my own body. With that delightful intro, let's talk about what we really came to talk about today. It is chapter 24 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Sectum Sempra.
Yeah. A lot of stuff happens in this chapter.
A lot of plot points get just thrown in.
Yeah, so my chapter summary, my This Is the One section is like probably one of the biggest paragraphs I've written for this section. I'll try to get through it. Because I know a lot of people probably, like, I'm guessing most people aren't actually going through and reading each chapter with us. You're probably a hardcore fan who doesn't remember every single thing that happens in every single chapter. So this is what I'm here to remind you.
Completely okay.
Yeah, this is my job. This is my job. This is what I'm here to remind you of. So here we go. This is the one where both Ron and Lavender, as well as Ginny and Dean, break up, much to Hermione and Harry's delight. So good for them. Katie Bell returns from the hospital wing with no memory of who attacked her, and Harry contemplates using Felix Felicis to try and get the nerve up to ask Ginny out. I don't think you should waste it on that, but it's a good thought. Harry finds Malfoy in the bathroom with Moaning Myrtle, crying about the task that he's been set to accomplish by Voldemort. They get into a duel, and before Malfoy can use an unforgivable curse on him, Harry tries out the prince's Sectum Sempra spell, which turns out to be a lot more dangerous than Harry could have ever imagined. Snape ends up saving Malfoy's life and gives Harry detention that prevents him from competing in the final Quidditch match of the season. Despite Harry's missing the match, the Gryffindor team does win, so yay, and swept up in the heat of celebration, the culmination of everything that I've been waiting for. This entire book happens, and Harold Potter, I don't know if his full name is Harold or if he's just Harry, and Ginevra Weasley kiss!
I am here for all your, fevered commentary on this.
They kiss, Adri!
I know, it's very important to both of us.
They have their first
Some more than others.
It's their first kiss. Anyway, okay, so that's what happened to the chapter.
Well, and as we are recording on the 2nd of February, it is also Black History Month, so happy Black History Month to everyone.
Yes.
Also, Justice Breyer is stepping down from the Supreme Court,
yes.
And Joe Biden is going to appoint a Black woman to the Supreme Court.
Yes, and how amazing.
He promised, and he's going to deliver.
Yes, so how amazing would it be if he was able to fulfill that promise, that campaign promise, during Black History Month, making history for the Black community during Black History Month.
Yeah, I don't think it might happen on Black History Month, but we'll see. I mean, at least the nomination.
It's probably not going to happen because, everything in Washington moves at a fucking snail's pace. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed because that would be pretty cool. The sooner the better,
yes. The sooner the better. I agree. All right, so let's get on to our Hogwarts debate club, which is where we talk about what politic we thought this chapter was carrying throughout its DNA. I'll go first. My politic is the politic of a gossip.
A gossip.
A gossip. And usually we think of gossip like, Rita Skeeter type gossip. Yeah. But here we see a lot of student body gossip, relate in very different ways. Okay. Even the professors are getting into the gossip action.
Right.
When Snape just goes and tattles on Harry, just not a big deal. The whole Ginny, Ron, love life of those siblings gets caught up in that's how we open the chapter basically, right? That gossip, hot goss, coming down to Harry and Hermione,
right?
And then Moaning Myrtle is just gossiping about. She pops up in every fucking bathroom and it's like, Harry killed Malfoy, basically.
Yep.
And the fat lady does not want to give Harry the hot goss about the Quidditch match. So there's some withholding there too.
Yeah, that's true. I think she understands that he will gain more pleasure, seeing it rather than hearing about it.
Unless she's just doing it to be petty, like, you got into detention, you don't get to know from me.
I'm sure I could see her just being
I feel like all the portraits gossip as well,
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah, her little, you'll see,
Hogwarts is run on gossip at this point.
I mean, it's true. It's true. A lot of the fifth book was all about gossip, and usually it was malintended gossip about Harry.
But this one goes into their personal lives, which is something I don't think we've really seen as much. The whole
well, they didn't really
love life.
Yeah, they didn't really have love lives before this book. Yeah.
Well, Hermione had Crumb, and I guess that became a thing, but not as
yeah.
No one really paid as much attention as to the whole Ginny and Ron situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess as you get older, the stakes get higher.
Yeah, I guess it does. I could see that.
What about yours? What was your politic?
Mine is the politic of consequences. So we see a lot of our characters being faced with different types of consequences for their actions in this chapter. Ron finally has to deal with the fallout of his relationship with Lavender, coming to its inevitable end, finally. Although I have to point out, he did escape the actual responsibility of ending it himself, which would have undoubtedly had more consequences. So he both dealt with and didn't have to deal with consequences in that situation.
Well, he did the scaredy cat boy way, just push her away until she breaks up.
Yeah, no, I literally hate it, and I've said this in other episodes, but I hate cowards who do not have the respect for the other human being in the relationship to end the relationship when they want it to end instead of forcing the other person to do it for them. So,
I mean, fair, but we've also talked about how Lavender had some controlling tendencies.
Of course, yeah, but that's nothing should have stopped Ron from being hey, I don't want to date you anymore. Unless she said, if you break up with me, I'm going to murder you, which she didn't say that. So, I don't know. I mean, if you have a differing opinion, I definitely want to hear it. Tell me. I want to see if there's something I'm missing. But from my perspective, thumbs down, Ron. But that's not the only consequence that we see. So we also see Malfoy is struggling with the consequences of potentially failing his task of killing Dumbledore that Voldemort assigned him. And it seems that he's finally seeing and accepting the reality of the situation he's in. And is kind of I kind of saw it as he's in the bargaining stage of grief at this point for his own life. He has kind of realized that he's going to he might fail this and he might die, and so he's going through the stages of grief because he's pretty sure that Voldemort's going to kill him, and he's at the bargaining stage.
Or his family, yeah,
he's
going to kill someone,
that
he cares about.
Yeah, but he's struggling with the consequences of failing that task, which is his death. He's struggling with that because Voldemort will probably kill him or his family or both if he fails. And so, yeah, so he's dealing with those consequences. And then, I mean, I think the most obvious is Harry. Harry is dealing with the consequences of using the Sectum Sempra spell on Malfoy, and his consequence is missing the Quidditch match, which doesn't, I guess, like from an outside perspective, doesn't sound like a huge deal, but like to Harry, who he is as a person and what he values, this is like the biggest thing that, like, this is the worst consequence he probably could have thought to have come in this situation. I mean, other than, I guess, like, yeah, being expelled from Hogwarts, that actually would probably be the worst consequence. But it's a big deal to Harry. He wasn't expelled, but he's the captain of the Quidditch team, and he got detention, and he can't be at the match, and that really matters to him. So, yeah, it's a consequence that he has to deal with that he didn't really want to deal with.
He didn't, he didn't die or get or worse expelled, as Hermione would say.
Exactly.
But he did get to miss something pivotal for him as the Quidditch captain.
Yeah, and it's first year as Quidditch captain too. Like, this is his first Quidditch final as Quidditch captain. It was a big deal. But I will say, I think Harry accepts his consequences with little to no pushback. He obviously isn't happy about it, but like he doesn't like fight Snape on it. He's just like, yeah, I fucked up. Like, I can't talk myself out of this. And it's probably because he feels true remorse for the effects of the spell. And he probably would not have cast that spell if he knew what was going to happen. So I think that aided him in accepting his consequences a bit more gracefully.
Well, he learned a valuable lesson of don't just do everything that's written down if you don't know the consequences.
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, he definitely learned, maybe I shouldn't trust this person I've never met that, like, maybe I shouldn't just write random spells that I don't know what they're going to do. It's probably not a good idea. And then Snape almost revels in being able to hand down these consequences, especially to Harry and the other Gryffindors. Just in general, honestly, he loves giving consequences to people. He loves punishing people. And I guess, like, overall, Snape is dealing with, like, the ultimate consequence of his actions of, like, Lily having been killed because of him and losing.
So do you think Snape loves punishing people because he believes he should be punished himself, so he punishes himself over and over again with, like, he tortures himself with his mistakes, so he feels like everyone else should as well?
I think, what you were starting to say at the beginning, I wasn't really feeling, but at the end where like, I'm miserable, so everybody else should be miserable. Yeah, I think that fits him. But I don't know. Snape is a weird character. We can get into that a bit deeper at another time, I'm sure.
Yes.
But finally, my last point on consequences is that I like to point out that being able to avoid consequences of your actions is a form of privilege. And that privilege is one that Draco has experienced many, 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 many times up until now. And I have to say, one that Ron is actually experiencing, like I mentioned earlier in this chapter, when he gets to avoid breaking it off with Lavender himself. So if you get to avoid facing any sort of consequences for your actions, you have a sense of privilege that some others might not get to experience. So just keep that in mind.
All right. Well, let's go a deep dive into the chapter. And Helene, tell me the quote or moment where you were like, yeah, this is the politic of consequences.
Mine was, it wasn't a quote this time. It's just a moment. It's the aftermath of Harry getting detention with Snape and having to miss the match. All of the people that he lets down because of that, and the shame that he feels because of that. And then McGonagall telling him he was lucky to not have been expelled. So it kind of like telling him like, oh, it could have been worse. You got a bad consequence, but like here's another consequence that you could have had that you avoided. So, what about you?
Well, yeah, I want to comment on yours though a little bit. It's like McGonagall was like, I agree with this consequence and punishment as fitting part of what you've done, but also it could have been like your expulsion from Hogwarts.
Right.
I want you to know that,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that she says that to like keep him in perspective and show him, there are consequences to your actions.
And that Snape was really lenient, really.
I don't. He took a more lenient stance than like literally the worst option. I will give him that.
I understand that. No. But like, do you think that maybe stems from him knowing that he's the one who created the spell? Like.
Yeah. Also, I think that Snape knows that Harry would not be protected and safe if he got expelled from Hogwarts, and it's just like one job from Dumbledore to make sure that Harry is protected and safe until the point where he has to kill Voldemort. So.
And also, he himself was the inventor of the spell.
No, exactly.
Harry
used, I mean, I think that plays a role in it too. Like, he wouldn't have been able to do this if I hadn't created this spell. This is partly on me.
And written it down in a potions book.
Yeah, like this is very slightly partly on him too, I guess. Yeah.
Maybe like that's also Snape's consequences of his actions coming to roost.
Yeah, I could see that. So what about gossip?
Okay, so this is a quote. One of my favorite quotes in this chapter. He had just finished telling Ron, Hermione, and Ginny what had happened. Not that there seemed to have been much need. The news had traveled very fast. Apparently, Moaning Myrtle had taken it upon herself to pop up in every bathroom in the castle to tell the story. Malfoy had already been visited in the hospital wing by Pansy Parkinson, who had lost no time in vilifying Harry far and wide, and Snape had told the staff precisely what had happened.
Yeah, it's a very funny visual of Moaning Myrtle popping into every single bath and be like, oh my god, did you hear? Harry almost killed Malfoy.
I'm sorry, you need to hear this. And I was like, I'm just trying to pee.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to get away from like the teachers or whatever. Can't I just put my makeup on in peace? Like,
oh yeah, now I have a visual of Hogwarts students going into the bathroom to put makeup on.
Well, or like smoke some cigarettes or something. I don't know. I'm just telling you things that
that you used to do in the bathroom.
My peers did in Catholic school. I don't know.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. No, yeah, it's a good one.
No. I'm very personally, I am against cigarettes, so I never did that. But
same.
Most of my class did, so it was very exciting.
I don't need that cancer. No thanks.
Yeah, you're like, ugh, it smells like nicotine in here. Ugh, disgusting. But you live, you learn. Anyway, who was your character for your politic?
Yeah, I think Harry would have been the obvious choice because I think like his consequence is like the main focal point of the chapter. But I decided to go with Snape because not only does he like hand down that consequence of Harry's punishment of missing the match, but I also like think he seems kind of joyful in doing so. And
of course, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that he also, gets some pleasure from like making Harry relive his father's indiscretions.
Honestly, like that I thought that was like the dumbest thing, right? Because I was like, so what you're doing is giving Harry ideas?
Yeah. So for those who haven't read the chapter recently, I'm referring to, so during the detention, Snape has Harry like go through old like record files of like past student, I guess like incident reports, I guess, if Hogwarts has incident reports. And he like makes him go through all of them, but he like makes him start with the ones that feature his father and Sirius.
And they have a lot of them because it's about it's filed about like the time, right? Like the time, like place or whatever. So
it's like the year.
So they have a ton of ones of like James and Sirius, or like James, Sirius, and Lupin and
Peter.
What's his name?
Peter.
Yes. Yeah. Pettigrew.
Yeah. I feel like he like he obviously hands down the consequence of like, okay, you have to have detention, so you can't go to the Quidditch match. But then, like, inside that consequence, he hides another consequence of, oh, while you're at detention, you have to relive your father's wrongdoings. And I feel like he's like, oh, like, yay, I get to torture Harry two ways, by making him miss his favorite pastime and making him, admit to the fact that his father was a horrible person by doing this.
You know what I was thinking about for our Patreon segment, and actually this is also relevant here, and I want to mention it, and then we can talk about it on the Patreon exclusive segment, is that there are a lot of bad daddies in this fucking series. Like, it's like the trauma is not handed down usually from like the biological mom. It's the trauma is handed down by the biological dad.
Yeah, you're right. I had like the first like few that I thought of. I mean, the Weasleys are an exception, obviously, but yes.
No. Okay, yeah, but when the characters have like a tragic backstory that makes them, however, evil or, complicated, right?
Yeah.
So like Lucius Malfoy, is a quote unquote bad daddy.
Voldemort, like his
Voldemort's dad. Yeah. So like Snape's dad, Dumbledore's dad, like just bad daddies all around.
Yeah, although
it's never the moms.
Yeah, although I think Dumbledore's is like, it's a slightly different, and we can get into it in the Patreon segment. But yeah, I see what you mean for sure.
Oh no, for sure. Like Dumbledore had like the more, I guess, balanced bad parents.
I would say that his parent, like his dad wasn't bad to him, but his dad was absent for a specific reason. Yeah.
But the consequences of his actions, made it so that he had trauma, right?
Consequences. The consequences, sorry.
Think about that. But so I was thinking about like, oh yeah, there's just a lot of bad daddies.
Yeah,
like,
it's interesting.
It's never really the biological mom.
Yeah, and like Vernon is like probably the worst of two evils with like Dudley.
Yeah, but he's not the biological dad, right? So like
Vernon for Dudley.
Oh yeah, but honestly, like he treats them, he spoils him too much, and that's a bad thing in another way.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we can get into that during our Patreon segment for sure.
Okay,
but until
just
then,
wanted to like throw that out there.
Yeah, until then, well, who's your character for gossip?
For the gossip,
gossip.
It's Moaning Myrtle, of course. Like, just the thought of like her popping up in every like water retaining, like any like water related thing, like a water fountain or anything that's connected by the pipes, and just being like, "Yo, you need to know about this hot goss." Is just hilarious to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, she definitely is the embodiment of gossip in this chapter. That's for sure.
And it's because she has a crush on Malfoy, and like
yeah,
she likes sensitive boys.
She really does. Because she's so sensitive herself, because she just like cries all the time. She wants a guy who she can cry with.
Well, she's like, wow. Could you imagine? Like, look, this is like really dark, okay? Yeah. But could you imagine if Harry had like done the Sectum Sempra and Malfoy had died and like become a ghost, and Moaning Myrtle was like, "Oh my god, yes!
Oh my god,
a boy that cries in the bathroom."
I hadn't thought about that.
Yes,
that's a great point. That's like there has to be headcanon or like fan fiction out there about that.
And if there's not, I need someone to make it, please.
Yeah, just like Ghost Malfoy and Moaning Malfoy. Sorry. Moaning Myrtle and Malfoy as ghosts together, like crying in the bathroom. I'm here for it.
I'm just saying.
Moaning,
like, I don't know why she's so mad. I don't know why she's so mad. She could have had like a companion.
I would have expected her to be like, "Ooh, die!" Like root for him, like please die, so that I can have a
die and also stay on the spiritual and this physical plane. Right. Come on.
That would be so funny. I mean, obviously, death is not funny. I'm not okay.
Okay, it's
there are
not funny, but it's also kind of funny.
You guys understand. Hopefully you understand. Anyway.
I hope so, because I'm the one who came up with the scenario.
Speaking of Malfoy, he is what I'm going to talk about in my throughout the book for consequences. So
yeah, okay, go ahead.
So throughout the book, I think that we see consequences most often in terms of Draco because during the whole book, he's dealing with the consequences of his father failing Voldemort and failing to get the prophecy in the last book. And so he's dealing with his father's consequences by having to, be set on this task to kill Dumbledore. And then by failing that, he's dealing with the consequences of, what Voldemort's wrath is going to look like.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just a lot of Draco, and I feel like it's like a comeuppance no, maybe not a comeuppance, but like Draco has not had to face any consequences, I feel like, at all the first, 16, 15 years of his life.
Well, privilege.
Yeah, he has not faced any consequences. He's gotten away with bullying people. He's gotten away with just so many things up until now. And this is like the year where he finally has to face like a lot of really big, heavy, scary consequences. And I don't think he's obviously not dealing with it very well.
Not well prepared for this, for sure.
Nope. So what about you? What about gossip throughout the book?
Okay, so in this book, as we spoke about earlier, there's a lot of interpersonal drama that makes it down like the gossip line, if you will.
Right.
And it's woven into the fabric of like the bigger picture, right? Because Dumbledore has this secret with Snape about like Snape, when it's time you gotta do it, my man. And then there's the whole like Ginny and Harry romance plot, or just Ginny's romance plot. Honestly, book 6 is just filled with who is Ginny dating now,
right?
Kind of plot. Having Ron having his first girlfriend, and that being like a very dramatic thing.
Yeah.
Unlike Hermione and Crumb, so like it's just, we know that there are things that happen in previous books that are of a romantic nature, but they don't have the same weight that they do in this book.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So, I mean, I agree.
That was how I was thinking about the hot goss on Half-Blood Prince. But it is time for us to talk about our Dementors and chocolate. And as a reminder, listeners, Dementors are what we did not like in the chapter, and chocolate are what we liked or even loved in the chapter. Let's get to it. Dementors. What was your Dementor, Helene?
Snape. Snape being a little petty bitch and forcing Harry to experience all of his father and Sirius's bad deeds during his detention. Like, you already gave him detention. Do you have to like further his? It's just like he just likes to take things like that extra step, and he's like, oh, any possible opportunity I have to fucking torture this kid, I'm gonna take it. Like, I hate it.
He's just really dramatic, like,
Yeah. Like, I agree. Harry definitely deserved consequences for what he did. Like, he almost killed another student. That's awful. I mean, 100%. Give him detention. But do you have to like pile it on? Like, this is just a personal, like a very like targeted personal attack on him during this detention that I just felt was unnecessary.
Well, it's everything with Snape is all about Snape, you know?
Yeah. What's new? Anyway, what about your Dementor in this chapter?
Okay, I did not expect that this would ever be my Dementor. I just want this to be out in the world.
Okay.
All
right.
But, Helene, one Hermione Granger.
Yeah.
Going on and on about the potions book. Like, after Harry gets all his consequences, I'm like, Hermione, he gets it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's me with Hermione and a lot of things that she has done in the last couple of books. Yeah. She likes to really latch on. She, like, third book, she really latches on about the broom that Sirius gives him.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of moralizing.
Yeah, in the fourth book, she really latches on about being able to operate inside of Hogwarts. And the fifth one, like, I mean, she just, there's always something. Like, she really is like,
just like a bone she would not let go.
But we do get to see like a little nasty side of Hermione in this chapter. Because like it kind of like sneaks out there that like she's actually jealous of Harry's like doing better than her in potions.
It's like the worst kept secret ever because she's been like huffing and puffing every time.
Yeah, but like she always likes to stand on her moral high ground of like, oh, like, you know, you shouldn't do this because it's wrong. Not you shouldn't do this because I'm personally
makes me look
it makes me like it makes me look bad. No, like she usually has some sort of moral high ground that she tries to stand on. This time, like it finally snuck in that she was like, no, I just don't like it. Like, stop looking good. It makes me not look good, or it makes me look less good. Yeah, Hermione has those moments.
Surprising no one. Harry and Ginny kissing finally is both our chocolate.
Yeah. So my chocolate is literally just all caps with like, I don't know, 13 exclamation points. Harry and Ginny kiss.
So mine is like, finally, some payoff to the tension brewing between these two.
Yes. I mean, of course that was going to be my chocolate. I'm sure you guys got that from the chapter summary.
From the intro.
Yeah, from the chapter summary I did earlier. But I do have an honorable mention, and that goes to, because I forgot this moment was in this chapter, and it always makes me laugh. The honorable mention goes to Runel Waslieb. That's my nickname. When Harry gets the potions book, he like brings Ron's potions book to Snape when Snape asks to see his potions book after, you know, helping Malfoy. And he's like, this is your book? And Harry goes, yep, that's my book. And he goes, then why does it say Runel Waslieb in it? And Harry just goes, that's my nickname. I died.
Yeah, just like unfazed.
Oh, I died.
Unfazed.
Yeah, I love it. I want Runel Waslieb to be my nickname. This is great. So, but it's still like many rungs down the ladder under Harry and Ginny kissing as like my favorite moment. So, like that's like top tier. It's probably one of my favorite moments in the whole book, or maybe even the whole series, honestly. So.
Okay, well, this is the place we thank our lovely patrons for making it possible for us to keep making this show. If you would also like to join the club that keeps this show going and get access to sweet, sweet perks, hop on over to patreon.com/AcioPolitics. What are those perks, Helene? May anyone ask?
Yes, if you would like to know, the perks are as follows. $2 a month is going to get you access to the bonus content that we keep hinting at for every episode. And then $5 and $10 a month tiers get you physical rewards that you can like hold in your hand and like touch and poke if you want every 3 months.
All right. And that bonus content we keep talking about today is going to be a discussion of the parallels between Snape and Dumbledore.
Yeah, I found some interesting ones. They are similar and yet also different, as most characters are.
And also, we're going to talk about bad daddies because...
Oh, yeah.
Why not?
We can also sneak that in there, for sure.
Well, every time we put a podcast fourth episode into the world, we ask a question. Last time, we asked the following question. How do you think Slughorn came to know about Horcruxes? Helene, did we get some awesome answers from our awesome listeners?
We did. So I'll go through some of the answers we got. The first one is from listener and friend of the pod, Rex. He says, in regards to the question, Sluggy knows about them because he either had a time turner that Lucius had in Cursed Child and went back in time to help Herpo the Fowl create the first one, or he is Herpo the Fowl, or he is related to Herpo and it's a family recipe they pass down like a casserole.
Worst casserole ever.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
Okay. The answer was a ride. Thank you, Rex.
This was a ride.
I died. I lost it when I got to casserole.
Okay, Rex, this was just like Erica Jane explaining how Tom was in an accident and then there's snow in Pasadena and the car rolled over. like, this is a housewife deep cut. So I'm sorry to
Yeah,
everyone else, but this is for Rex.
I didn't get that, but I'm sure Rex will get it. I hope you enjoyed that, Rex. Just for you. So yeah, so basically he's saying either he went back and made the first one, first Horcrux, and that's why he knew about Horcruxes, or he's related to the guy who made the very first Horcrux, and they passed down the family recipe like they would pass down a casserole. So there we go.
And yeah, okay. Next one, please.
So next is Bree723 on Instagram. They said, I think education may have been different about the dark arts in Slughorn's youth, which is a good point.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it seems like all like the banning of the Horcruxes and, you know, mentions of that in the textbooks was quite recent.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have to deal with like a Voldemort type figure back then, right? Like they hadn't had, like they had Grindelwald, which I don't know like how old Slughorn was when Grindelwald was at like his height of power. I'm pretty sure he was probably already a teacher at Hogwarts. So I don't know if there was like another big bad before Grindelwald in the Wizarding world where they had to worry about people like abusing and using this type of thing. Like I have no idea. Yeah, it's a good point though.
Okay.
Lopez.desiree.m on Instagram said from the restricted section. So she thinks that, I'm guessing it's just that the books that talk about Horcruxes were all just, you know, available in the restricted section when he went to school, which could be true. I mean,
or maybe he has access as a professor to the restricted section.
Well, I mean, Harry can get access from a teacher. Voldemort could have gotten access from a teacher. Like, I don't think, like, and if it was just in the restricted section, I think theoretically anyone could have gotten access to it. You just need, like, special permission. So I don't think that you can really find out a lot about them in the restricted section, like, you know, in Voldemort's time at Hogwarts. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to ask Slughorn.
Okay.
But Swish and Flick podcast had a similar answer. They said, I think the restricted section of the library, because Dumbledore had the books removed by the time Harry knew about them, which is why Hermione summoned them after Dumbledore's funeral. So some time before the 1940s, when Tom Riddle asked about Horcruxes and had already made one. And that was from Tiffany specifically, from Swish and Flick podcast. And Megan Crawford, Megan C. and a bunch of numbers on Twitter, she replied back with, I like this theory. If the creation of a Horcrux involves potion making to a certain extent, Slughorn may have come across the term when reading his potion books.
All right.
And then Melissa Jane 112233 on Instagram said he be sketchy, so low-key thinking he was contemplating making one.
You know what? I have to agree with that one.
Yeah, I could see that. And the last one here is from listener Patreon Katya. They said he associates with powerful, important people, and I bet there's a lot of gossip going on. Gossip. Look at that. Maybe someone brought it up as slander or gossip about someone else. I can see a whisper conversation. Did you hear about so-and-so? They're researching Horcruxes. If the ministry finds out, ... So,
well, and then he was probably like, I need to know this person because I like it when people have influence, you know?
Yeah, I feel like Katya's answer is very in character for him, so I could see that for sure.
Yeah. Well, listeners, thank you so much for all these fantastic answers. This time, we have a question that we'd like to pose to you again, as we try to do every episode. So, do you think that Snape ever tried to use Sectum Sempra on the Marauders?
Yeah.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I mean, he created the spell, so did he ever use it? Who did he use it on? Why did he create it? You know?
I mean, also, like, you create a spell, you need to know how it works, right?
Exactly. You had to test it on someone, right?
Like, who did he test it on? Like, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for our Potter section of the podcast. Let's move on to our media we've been consuming. Helene, what have you been watching lately?
I have been watching How I Met Your Father on Hulu. As you might have, I don't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast, but I'm a very big How I Met Your Mother fan. I'm sure I've talked about this.
Well, yes, and so am I. until the last
Oh,
season.
yeah, no, the last season can...
It never existed,
yeah, it
right?
like it really shouldn't have existed, and especially the last episode, because I feel like it just undoes like 9 seasons of character development. But it's probably one of my most...
You and I agree on
yeah,
this. You and I agree on
it's
this.
probably
Yes.
one, like, because you know how people like vehemently hate the original season finale or series finale of Dexter. Like people say like that's like the worst series finale ever or whatever.
Or Gilmore Girls, and then we got seasons, and it got even worse.
Oh, I was trying to remember what the series finale of Gilmore Girls was. I never had a problem with the series finale of that. I had a problem with the series finale of, well, really honestly, with just like the year in the life thing. But
yeah, like the season. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm getting so off top. So basically,
Sorry,
the amount that people hate the series finale of Dexter, like and it's like, you know, people, it's very well known that people absolutely hate that. That's how much I hate the series finale of How I Met Your Mother, and I will like die on this hill, because I have a lot of people argue like, oh, actually no, it makes a lot of sense, or, you know, oh, I see why they did this. No, dude, I didn't watch not.
I will die on this hill with you. You and I will be together.
I did not watch 9 years. It was of like explaining why Ted and Robin do not work well together, for him to end up with spoilers, for him to end up with Robin. I did not.
Well, also for them to invent a character who was basically a red herring, who was like kind and nice and all of this. We didn't get to see their marriage. We didn't get to see them together, really.
Yeah.
So for them to just create like this like straw man character to kill it,
like
basically.
really, really, really wanted the mother to like, I liked the mother's character. Anyway. So yeah, I love How I Met Your Mother as a show. Amazing. The last season could have done without it. But then I obviously heard that they were making this spinoff. It's technically a spinoff, How I Met Your Father, on Hulu.
With Hilary Duff.
With Hilary Duff as the main character, and then Chris Lowell, and those are the two that I mainly know and care about. The whole cast is great. Hilary Duff plays the like Ted Mosby-ish character, and I had to say, I was like, I mean, like, I'm always really skeptical when they try to like bank off of the past success of things that already existed. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt like maybe it would be a cheap imitation, or maybe like they would just try to redo it and like it would just fall on its face. I have to say though, have you watched it? Because I'm really enjoying it.
I have not watched it because I was under like I was still like hesitant for the same reason you were hesitant to like, like, is this gonna suck or whatever? Yeah. But then I have convinced myself that I need to start watching it soon and just tell myself it's Lizzie McGuire in the big city.
Honestly, they do such a good job of making it its own thing, but also paying homage to the original in like the best ways. I honestly think that they like, I really do think they hit the mark on it. It's really hard to do it, but I think they hit the mark on it for lots of reasons. And I love it not only in its own right as like its own show, but I do love like this nostalgia of How I Met Your Mother tied into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just fun to watch it as a How I Met Your Mother fan, being like knowing that like I wasn't 100% sure if it was like canonically like in the same universe, but it is. This isn't.
Oh, so spoiler alert.
It's not a spoiler, really. I mean, you learn in the very first episode. It's obvious right away, and so it's just nice to like have that little, like, I don't know. There are parts where I'm just like, oh, I caught that. Like, oh, that's a thing from the original, or like, oh, I don't know. It's I really liked it a lot so far. There's 4 episodes out. Plus, Josh Peck has been in the last 2 episodes. I don't know if he's going to be a main character, but like it's fun to see him again. Like it's just nostalgia city for people my age, really.
So it's nostalgia for a lot of reasons, is what you're saying.
Yes, and like Chris. Okay, so we get Hilary Duff, obviously, Liz McGuire. You get Chris Lowell, who, if you aren't aware, if you like the name doesn't ring a bell, he plays Piz in Veronica Mars, which is one of my all-time favorite characters in Veronica Mars. It's a hot take, I know. A lot of people don't like Piz. I love Piz.
Again, we will die together on this hill,
yes,
Helene.
Exactly. And then obviously like Josh Peck. And there's a character, a main character that is not I don't think he's supposed to be a Barney character, but the guy looks like a brunette Barney.
Okay.
He's British, but like it's so uncanny. I see him and I'm like, why? He looks so much like Neil Patrick Harris. I can't. It's so weird. Anyway, I love it. Watch it. I've talked about it so much already. I gotta stop. I love it though.
All right. You have convinced me. Speaking of nostalgia, I was feeling a little, down in the dumps, as one does sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what I need? Friends season 5.
Oh my gosh. I'm always here for Friends.
Because honestly, I mean, spoiler alert, this was like 25 years ago. Yeah. But season 5 is
okay,
when...
Sorry, go on. I was going to ask, I want to know why you decided to start at season 5, but go on.
Season 5 is the beginning of the love story arc between Monica and Chandler.
Okay, all right. I kind of assumed that might have been the case.
So we get to see like Ross and Rachel get married in Vegas right before they could get married. We get to see like everyone finding out about this secret relationship, and the last one is Ross.
That episode when everybody finds out, it's like Phoebe from the other apartment being like screaming. Oh my god, that's like one of the high peak comedy of. I love that episode.
Yes. And then like I think I've made it up to season 7 so far. And one of my favorite episodes is the Nestlé Tool
House. Yeah. This is why you're burning in
hell. This is why you're burning in hell. Yes.
I know Friends way better than I should. I love Friends,
but I just love it.
Yeah.
I just love it so much.
I have a very important question on the topic of Friends for you.
Okay. Yes.
Where do you land on whether or not Rachel and Ross were on a break?
I honestly don't care because I don't care for them as a couple.
Okay, well, it should be well known that I am a vehement Ross hater. Ross can burn in hell. I hate Ross. Every aspect of his character.
I would have liked to see Rachel and Joey, to be honest.
Honestly, I actually really liked them together. That arc, a lot of people hated that arc. I like that arc. But no, I hate Ross. I think he's awful. I could point out a zillion bajillion good tons of reasons, unending reasons as to why I hate Ross Geller.
And like Friends has its flaws. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's
100%.
No diversity to speak of.
100%. Yeah.
Extremely fat phobic. That fat suit they put Courtney Cox in, not even like that quote unquote fat suit. That only made her like mid-sized.
Yeah.
Not even plus-sized.
Yep. No,
and I'm like, what is this?
There are tons of issues. But I have to say, in terms of Ross and Rachel being on a break.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you just say Ron?
I did. I hate them both. I hate them both. What can I say?
Yeah.
They're interchangeable. No, question is moot because it doesn't matter if they were on a break or even if they were broken up. You do not sleep with someone else the same night the girl that you claim to love asks for space.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't care. I don't care how, even if she said we're over and we're never getting back together, it's still shitty as hell to go sleep with someone else that same night. Anyway.
Well, and
then lie to her about it. Try to lie to her about it the next morning and try to, like, pretend it never happened. Awful. Anyway.
As my spiritual advisor, Phoebe Buffay would say, Ross, you love divorce so much that you're going to marry it.
And then divorce it.
And then it's not going to work out, so you're going to divorce it.
Yes. Oh, gosh. It's a great show. We should do a Friends podcast. Anyway,
that being said, that's it for today's episode. Join us next time as we talk about chapter 25 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, The Seer Overheard.
Yes, and if you've enjoyed this conversation, we would behoove you, please, to take a second and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podbean or wherever you happen to be listening to our voices right now. As you know, it helps new listeners discover the podcast and it makes us happy. So, I mean, isn't your main goal in life to make random podcast hosts on the internet who you've never met happy? Because it should be.
Yeah, it should be, But until then, politics managed. Support this show by going to patreon.com/Occhiopolitics. Our patrons keep this show going. You can find us online at Occhiopolitics.com, and we are at Occhiopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can email us your thoughts at info@Occhiopolitics.com. Leave us a voicemail at 915-996-1699, and you might just hear yourself on the podcast. Adriana Wilson is the founder and creative director of the podcast. Helene Karp is the producer and social media manager. Allison Pullman is the audio wizard and editor who makes us sound so good. Cover art and physical rewards are designed by Adriana Wilson. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are expressly their own and not representative of their employers or associates. Occiopolitics is part of the MuggleNet family of podcasts.